Mutu System. So we are NHS Apps Library approved. I do say that at every available opportunity, of course. I'm often asked to speak on BBC Radio. We've been quoted in the Telegraph, Grazia, Huffington Post, CNN. So we've had quite a lot of press, both here and abroad. And the crux of what we do at Mutu System is core and pelvic floor recovery for mums, for women. So we're in women's health. We deal with a number of core and pelvic floor issues experienced by many women in the weeks, months and years following childbirth. And as well as being recommended by the NHS Apps Library in this country, we're recommended and referred by health specialists around the world. Now, as far as sort of getting started, it obviously hasn't always been this way. And I will give you the tiniest background, which is because this is relevant to what platform you build and when you decide to build it. I basically built this myself initially from a starting point of a flip camera. They don't even exist anymore. Duct taped to a tree 10 years ago, exercising on a mat and Googling everything. Google was my teacher. How do I put exercises online? How do I get people to buy it? How do I make them pay? How do I protect content? Literally everything. HTML hacks, the lot. I just Googled it. So this is something that I've built myself, and I'll come on to definitions in a moment, but we are a web app, a web application. Now, I don't want to teach people to suck eggs, but not always, these definitions are not always commonly known. So I'm going to just sort of run through what they mean and when you may or may not need one or the other. I want to cover two things, and I'm going to do both briefly, and any questions you want to ask me, I'm very accessible. You can email me, get me on LinkedIn, whatever. But I think there's two areas here to talk about. The first one is getting approved by Orca and then subsequently by NHS Digital. What was it like? What does that mean? Was it worth it? I will answer those questions. The second one is building an app at all from a business owner's perspective. Now, yes, I'm in the area of women's health. We serve women with their health and their wellness. However, I'm also a business owner. And we've heard from other speakers this morning about sort of massive investments potentially, and not necessarily massive return on those investments potentially. So I want to just cover those. So first of all, getting approval. Okay, Liz has just talked you through a large element of how it all works. What's my experience of it? What was it like getting approved and accredited by the NHS Apps Library? Painful, I think is possibly kind of sums it up. Long, painful. The process took us 2 years or thereabouts. As we also heard from Beverly earlier, it kind of depends too how long the process is, about the level of potential danger or sort of medical intervention, if you like, of the app that you're offering. So if you are in health and wellness, and if the app or the site that you want to develop, if it's, for example, a meditation app. Now, whilst obviously massively valuable in terms of mindfulness and mental well-being, there is less potential for danger, if you like, or for harm to be done from that. And so the process will be slightly different from, for example, the app that Beverly was talking about, where you're talking about actual medical diagnostics. Okay, so there is going to be a difference on how lengthy that process is, dependent upon how intrusive or medical, if you like, that your solution is. So that will vary. Now, ours probably falls somewhere between those two examples I just gave. We do deal with physical medical issues in women's health, and so we did have to go through quite a robust process proving clinical safety and evidence of outcomes. The landscape has changed a lot. A couple of people have said this. It's very different to when I strapped a camera to a tree 10 years ago. The situation has changed both in terms of regulation and compliance and accreditation for digital solutions. The landscape has also, of course, changed massively in terms of the tech landscape. So what did an app mean 5 years ago, 2 years ago? What does an app mean now? And I really liked Liz's comment there where she said, I'd rather call them digital solutions than apps, because app is actually slightly can be ambiguous and confusing. And again, that's why I want to cover off just a couple of brief definitions. So when we started the process 2 years ago, the situation was that in order to be approved for the NHS Apps Library, which was at that time run by NHSX, you needed to go through their appointed assessors at the time, which was Orca. Now, Orca don't play that exact role for the NHS anymore, but they did then. They have, of course, developed their own approval and assessment processes. Now, I think it was Beverly that said earlier, would I do it again? What did I learn? She said, you don't know what you're heading into. And I couldn't agree more, because would you have done it had you known? Don't know. It was a long process. This took us 2 years or thereabouts. It will take, getting this sort of accreditation or approval will take hours of your, many hours of your team's time. Now, obviously, it'll take tech time, because there's a lot of tech compliance that needs to happen, but there's compliance in terms of data, GDPR, with data protection. It's huge, we all know that. That's massive. Every department in my company was heavily involved in answering these questions. So the categories that we covered off, Liz covered them in detail a moment ago, so I'll literally just head them for you. Evidence of outcomes, clinical benefits, does it actually work? Clinical safety, data protection, usability, accessibility, interoperability, technical stability, what have I missed? Security. Now, in terms of cost, because obviously cost is really relevant here, there was no financial cost, apart from obviously many hours of my employees' team's time, but the only cost we paid, just for your information, was in the security element, and we needed to complete, or have completed for us, a code level security assessment, a CLSA, and that was done by a third party, and I think, if memory serves me well, I think that was £3,000 or £4,000. So that was the only financial cost. It was in getting the code level security assessment, and they may need to reassess if you don't pass first time. So there's all these different categories, and each one of those categories has like 20 plus questions in it. So as I say, every team, every member of your team will be involved in some way: customer service, tech, legal, compliance, everything. Okay, it's a lot of work. So I think that the obvious next question, and I know that one I was asked to answer is it worth it? Do you bother? So I think that overwhelmingly yes. The answer is yes, it was worth it. We work in the area of women's health and wellness and their bodies, often dealing with quite intimate issues as well as medical issues, and so the credibility that comes, as we know in this country, with the NHS stamp of approval is massive. Liz talked a lot about trust. It's about trust. I run an international business. We have as many customers in the States, or more customers in the States than we do here. So, and trust comes in different forms depending on your audience. If your audience is in the UK, as we all very clearly know from personal experience, we trust the NHS like we trust nobody else. So yes, it's worth it. Yes, it's worth it to get that stamp. It also has meant for us that press and sort of media interest does tend to be that little bit easier. You kind of pass that first hurdle of credibility that any journalist will want. Excuse me. So trust, credibility, press interest just makes life a little bit easier. It makes you stand out from your competition if you're in an area where some of your competitors or similar kinds of businesses or solutions are sort of perceived to be maybe more medical than others, more credible than others, then you can really stand out doing this. Apart from anything else, one thing that we remembered from going through it was, we know we're the only ones doing this because nobody else would put themselves through this. So it does, that there is that standout element. So yeah, worth it in that sense for sure. But what I want to come on to as well is to just talk about lessons from a business owner point of view. Everybody wants, it's been mentioned a couple of times today, the stamp of approval from the NHS. What I can tell you for sure, having sought that holy grail for a long time, is that there is no such thing as one magic bullet one person, one organisation, one approval that will get you that, neither within the NHS or public sector or outside of it. We as a business single-mindedly decided that the NHS Apps Library was our goal. Throughout that process, I would also want to say that the Orca team, Liz's team, are amazing. They were absolutely brilliant. The patience and the expertise was unreal. There's no way we'd have got to our NHS digital goal without Orca's help. If you, a lot of those questions, you're not even sure what they're asking for at the beginning. Orca help you through every step of the way. So I would highly recommend the Orca team. So how that worked, we got cleared by Orca and then we got handed by NHSD. Then of course COVID hit, and we fell down that hole in the middle at the beginning of this year. NHSD had different priorities, which they still don't seem to have totally sorted out. Track and trace, different conversation. And so we needed to stay top of mind. And I don't know if you know the movie Shawshank Redemption, but you know that bit where Andy writes a letter every week until the government just like give in and give him his library funding. I was that person. In order to stay top of mind, and that was what we needed to do. I knew that we'd kind of fallen down this hole, awkward past us, but we needed the NHS. So yeah, my strategy basically was become their worst nightmare, which I kind of did, and eventually it worked. I stalked on LinkedIn. I emailed every senior person at NHSD. Now, if there's anybody from NHSD listening to this, they're probably like, God, no, please don't do that. But I was determined. We had a goal and we were so close, and we'd spent 2 years getting that approval. So as I say, I was asked to give a candid business owner view. That's fine. And it was actually Liz Ashwell-Payne contacted me and sort of said, wow, how did you do that? And I said, I was their worst nightmare. And she said to me, yeah, I thought that was probably the way. So don't give up. If you have decided that that is your goal, jump through the hoops. The hoops are many, but it's worth it. I want to quickly talk to you about what it means to be in there though. So for example, the NHS Apps Library, I don't know about you, but I'd never heard of the NHS Apps Library before. I certainly don't or haven't gone on the NHS Apps Library looking for something to download. And in our experience as well, there are actually many caregivers in the NHS, many NHS employees, primary caregivers, that aren't necessarily all that familiar with it. But it's that stamp of approval. So it's kind of this interesting area, which is the fact that you've got it is enough. And that was our sort of, as I say, that was our holy grail. We're going to get that stamp. But this leads me to, I think it was Kyle mentioned earlier, about marketing. It's all very well getting in there, but you have to tell people about it. Because as I say, the NHS Apps Library is not somewhere that people are browsing daily looking for healthcare solutions in your specific area of expertise. Customers are not browsing the NHS Apps Library. So just be really clear about your goals and what you're going to do with that approval when you get it. As I said, ours was 2 years in the making. When we got it, we had PR and social media lined up and ready to roll, and we haven't stopped shouting about it since. So make sure, it doesn't have to be expensive, big marketing budgets, but you have to be aware that, as somebody said earlier, build it and they will come is not enough, okay? You have to be ready and willing to shout about it and keep shouting about it. Do you need an app? I'm going to touch on this briefly because I know that we're short of time, but I want to just make a few distinctions. Everything that I've just said gives you credibility, trust, medical, if you like, stamp of approval. But the most important thing when you are deciding how to reach your customer and serve your customer digitally is, does the customer care? Does the customer need it? And I am absolutely an advocate that everything starts with UX. User experience. It starts with your customer, your user. Don't just decide we need to build an app. It's like ask the why question 7 times. Why? So we can be in the app library. So what? Why? Keep asking yourself, and within your team as you brainstorm this and sort of decide what your digital solution looks like. Why? Why do you need an app? What for? What do you want it to do? What is it? What needs of your customer is it going to meet that are otherwise not met? And this isn't to put you off, but it's literally to get really clear that an app is not a unicorn. An app is, that there are, as we've heard, there are millions of them. So what is yours going to do that meets your customer needs? So be really clear about what you want it to do. Will it grow your business, if that is your goal? Will the transition from whatever you have now, or if it's from nothing to an app, is that going to grow your business? And of course, is it feasible? Is it robust? Will it work? Nothing is going to frustrate or put off a customer or potential user more, however awesome your content is, if they can't get on in the first place, or if it's slow. So quick definitions: web app. Mutu System is a web app. That means it works on the web. It's a web-based application. That means it works on any browser. A native app is an app that you find in the App Store, in the Apple Store or in the Android Store. That means, as we've heard, there are various ways of building it, and that has changed massively in the last few years, but you need to build for Android, you need to build for Google Play, you need to build for Apple, and you need to keep updating and maintaining. You also have to give those app stores a cut of everything that they take. So there's I think it was Kyle sort of said about building web first. That's very much what we've done. What we've got is an ever more sophisticated web application, and we're now looking into this sort of middle ground that I think has been touched on, called a PWA, a progressive web app, which is a single code base that works across any platform and essentially makes a web app look like an app. This is the important part, back to the customer. When a customer says, I want an app, what do they actually mean? What they mean is, I want it to appear on my phone. What they mean is, I want it to send me notifications. The back end, the tech part, is irrelevant. It's not what they're asking about. So again, we just say app, as Liz said, we just say app, but actually we mean a digital solution of some description. Now, if you can do that in a web-based app, and do it on a WordPress platform with themes or plugins, which you can do, absolutely, you can have a fully interactive experience for your customer on that platform. So really think about what you're going to build and why you're going to build it. What do customers want most? They want speed. Users hate delays. They want it on a platform that they will use. We know that most customers don't actually buy through an app. They'd rather not bother downloading it. So they might look on mobile, but very often they'll go to at least the mobile site, if not the website, in order to actually buy or shop. They want notifications, they want reliability, they want engaging. So again, that's just a snapshot of what customers are looking for, but I would absolutely encourage you to just to keep UX and your customer absolutely top of mind. If it's not going to make her life easier, then don't waste your money. Build what she needs or he needs. Build it on a platform that is fast and accessible. Don't get ahead of yourself, make something overly complex that then it's just too slow to use. We all know we will uninstall or just leave when something doesn't work or it's too slow. So keep your customer in mind, what will actually help. And if you're going to go for that kind of approval or accreditation, be really clear about, one, what you want it for and how it will actually grow your business and make a difference for you to reach more people. And secondly, what are you going to do once you've got it? Because if you don't shout about it, nobody else is going to.